Hey folks, this is Noble Rambler, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Banished. We're using the Colonial Charter 1.6 mod called the Forge Awakens, which was meant to commemorate the what would you say, the opening weekend of the largest grossing movie ever in the galaxy. I haven't seen it yet. We're gonna maybe do that tomorrow night. Anyway, we're gonna finish this little sub-series, you might say, of going through all of the buttons and seeing what the difference is between Banished and Colonial Charter mod, at least this version of it. And it seems like we got to here last time, so let's see what is next. We're on food, and I'm sipping a mug of hot cocoa. It's a white chocolate hot cocoa. I put a bunch of mini marshmallows in there and ran the hot water through that as I was mixing up the cocoa, and it's all a big frothy, marshmallowy cup of goodness, we'll say. Alright, so we've got the first tab in foods is raw food gathering. So this is kind of what used to be the most of food back in Banished. You had these three here, and the fish was there, so you had these three, and it seemed like you had orchard and crop and pasture. That was about it. So you can see how much further food goes in this mod. So we've got your typical hunting cabin. Where's our clearing? Speaking of hunting cabin, and that's right, there is a change to the hunting cabin. You're used to this one if you've played Banished before. Let me rotate that around. They threw another one in there, so more of a log cabin look to it, with some tan hides on the side there. So that's the new hunting cabin. Both of them work the same, so just whatever graphic you want to use. And if you, like me, even remember to hit the F button. I'm having a hard time remembering that there are choices when I'm playing this game. Fishing dock looks the same as before, functions the same way, and of course the red part there is what drops into the water. We've got the gathering hut, and it does not have any other choices, so it's one look. Yeah, gathering hut. So this is actually the strongest food collection, at least it was. I'm assuming it still is. Well, I haven't seen any recent tests to prove that, but it's amazing what you can look up online about Banished. So many people have gone to the trouble of mapping, calculating exactly how much food each of these produces per employee per year, and this was the strongest source of food. But it may be that some of the other ones have matched it or even gone past. I don't know. Apiary. An apiary produces honey as a food item or beeswax, which can be turned into candles at a chandlery. Chandlery. Where'd that go? Yeah, it is the CH is an SH sound. I did look that up. I Googled it to make sure I knew how to pronounce it, and I found a YouTube video. And for 60 seconds, a guy just kept saying, chandlery, chandlery, over and over and over. So, what's that look like? And are there any other choices? I didn't click on it. I thought that looked a lot like a gatherer's hut. So there is our chandlery. Rotate that around. You got the bees, honey. What do you call them? Bees nest? Bees hive. That's what I want to come up with. Beehives in there, and they're under the shed, so they get shade, so don't get too hot. Don't want your honeycomb to melt. In fact, when it does get too hot, all the bees will attach themselves to the outside of it and just fan their wings to keep everything cooled down. It's amazing what they know how to do. So that is the chandlery, and this will make wax, which later, when we get into the refined resources, we'll find a candle maker. I'm sorry, this is the apiary, which goes to the chandlery, which is the candle maker. Something just didn't sound right as that came out of my mouth. Tidal pool. Tidal pool harvests oysters, mussels, crayfish, and seaweed. So let's back up a bit and zip down over to the water. Can I do it on this one? Not really. Let's find the lake. There we are. So, zoom in here. So this one gets down in the water into the wharf area there and finds all the oysters and all the seafoods. Well, the freshwater seafoods that would be found in that lake. Let's see that once again. So we got oysters, mussels, crayfish, and seaweed. You do have freshwater versions of some of that. So next is the hunting blind. And flip this around. This goes out in the field. And you'll get ducks. That's interesting. It wants a shoreline. Ah, so it knows that it needs to be near the shore. Okay, so it wants a shoreline to work. Hunting blind. A hunting blind buildable upon the water's edge. Okay, minus the commas. Helps disguise hunters so they can catch ducks and other water animals. So they'll catch them, and then you'll get feathers and duck meat and what have you out of that. A wharf and ship. I assume that means shipyard. A wharf with its... Oh, I see. It's a wharf with its ship. Okay. Is an advanced building used to fish whale, seal, and lobster on the high seas. Whale blubber is required to make lamp oil at an oil press, an important item for making some advanced buildings. So that's not it. There we go. Oh, nice. Now we still have to find that perfect spot on a shore that is parallel to it. So there are tools in here where you can build a whole wharf system. You know, just line the whole shoreline with the stonework you see underneath that building there. So this would fit well with that themed set of tiles. And toward the end of this, we're going to get into several tile themes where you can create a whole scenes just from certain themes, certain sets of tiles. We'll get into that in a little bit. So this right here brings in the lamp oil and the... I'm wondering if seal and lobster also brings in oil, or is just, and whale is just one of the choices, or if it is the only one that does the oil. Now we'll figure that out when we get there. So that is the raw food gathering sources in Colonial Charter. Now food refining. So let's take those foods and do something with it. We've got a dairy. Makes butter, cream, cheese from milk. All three products get made by the dairyman automatically when milk is available. So it's amazing the amount of food variety that we've got now. You know, we don't really need any of it. The game will still run without running any of these new things, but this gives you the ability to create a town to be exactly how you want it to be. Let's see, any variants? No. So that's the one choice you get, and basically they take the milk and they turn it into cheese and butter and what have you. So next is the oil press that formerly mentioned about whale blubber. So extracts oil from olives, harvested sunflower, flax, and cotton seeds, and whale blubber. So there's the answer. The seals and the lobsters have nothing to do with it. Lamp oil is best pressed from whale oil, but can be made from other organics at a cost. So what is this? Okay, a little building. Ah, you got a wheel that rolls around like you would use to create flour. You know, I'm trying to think what that is called. Well, no, I lost that word. Not a mill, but anyway. So this one smashes all of the blubber and probably a hole toward the bottom where all the oil runs down into jugs. That sort of a thing. We've got a large windmill and a small windmill and a water mill. So large windmill, I assume, makes large quantities of flour. Makes flour from grain. Flour is not edible and can either go to a bakery for preparing as a food or it can be traded. So you get a smaller version which has much less building materials. So it'll, let's see, stone, planks, and I think that's 2 materials or building materials, and this is wood, stone, and planks. Okay, so you can get this at a lower level of resource chain development. The third choice there comes much further along than the wood planks do. So this does the same thing, but probably makes less at a time, I'm guessing. The watermill does the same thing. F to cycle the appearance. Okay, so different ways of accomplishing the same goal. Where are we? There we are. So let's spin this around, and let's get ourselves over here. There we go. It has a nice look to it. So you can, if you happen to have water near where your wheat fields are and your flour mill, and you'd most likely want to put all those near each other with some kind of a storage space meant for it, so that it would stay within that region and not have to be trucked all the way across the map and all the way back again. So there's your water version of the windmill for milling flours. Then you take those flours to your bakery. So a bakery produces a variety of breads and cakes of different nutritional values. So it's probably a drop-down menu in there when you get to it. And let's head back. That's right. Go back. Watermill. Press F to cycle through. I always forget to do that. I see. We've got an all-wood version or a stone version, depending on what technology you want to simulate having being used at that time. So, bakery. Any more water-based here? No. So we'll head back to our clearing. And here's our bakery. And that's one model there. It won't change. Move that around a little bit. Nice. So I don't know if that is like a cooling rack on the side down there, or if that's like stalls to sell what's being baked inside. Could be. And nice staircase going up above. I like that. I really like this game. I like the models, what they've created, the artwork. So we've got a preservist. Preservist? A preservist. Makes preserves such as jams and pickles out of fruit and vegetables. Jams need sugar from a sugar house. So you can see how complex this resource chain is quickly becoming. Pickles need spirits from a distillery. So it gives you your vinegars. Glassware comes from the glassworks, so I'm guessing you got to make jars also in order to do your preserving. So this is the end product of probably 3 or 4 levels of production to get to this point. What does that look like? And that's the only version of it. So just a nice little building there to do all your canning in. Okay, so we've got a smokehouse. Smokehouse cures a variety of fresh food for preserving. So you bring your meats over here. Got them hanging up over there, and probably, I haven't actually built one of these before, but I'm guessing there'll be smoke pouring out of a vent somewhere. Let's see, any other versions of it? Nope, that's what we get. Nice look to it. We've got here the salting house. So when we get further into here, we're going to find that there is a salt mine. That's where we get the salt. And then our salting house, like we just did a little quick save there. The salting house cures a variety of fresh foods for preserving. So another way of curing, just like the smokehouse. So your barrels of salt will be in there, and I don't know if the graphics will change as they're using it, if they'll be putting things out on those tables or not. Doesn't cycle through. Kind of look around. A little different roofing tile there. It's interesting. Almost looks like fish scales. Alrighty, so sugar house. Sugar house processes sugar cane and sugar beets into sugar and maple sap into syrup. You may further refine maple syrup into sugar. However, this is very inefficient, requiring almost twice the amount of raw materials. So if you don't have access to sugar cane or sugar beets, then there is still a way to get sugar, but it's going to be much more difficult to do it. Alright, so we've got that look to it. I can hear my cat meowing out the door. He wants in. He can hear my voice in here, and he wants to know what I'm up to. Transparent fields. Okay, so a crop field that when you plunk it down, it doesn't turn it into a different colored... here, hold on a second. Let me grab the cat. Be right back. Okay, so I went to grab Nico, and he decided to do a 180 and fly back out the door. So he didn't come in. So where was I? Transparent crop fields. I haven't really played with these before. So a regular crop field, we don't have one as an example. So these, I think I'm going to not spend the time guessing right now. You've got all your different orchards and pastures, and whether they're fenceless or regular, and they're all transparent. So it has to do with the look. It has to do with whether or not they're going to be a different texture to designate a big rectangle, or if it's just going to go natural while you're not using it, I'm guessing. We'll get into those when we start planting. We'll plant a variety of different kinds and experimenting, including the fenceless ones. We'll put in our own fencing on some of them, see what that's like. So a lot of what we're going to do in Colonial Charter mod is just explore all of these options, or at least all that we can. As well, we'll go ahead and actually build ourselves a major civilization here. So we're going to go much further than we did with Springfield. Springview? Springfield. Springview. I don't remember what it was. It's one of those springs. Alright, so that is the transparent fields. Let's move on to tinneries. Now that's more like the preservation stuff we were seeing over here. You take another level of production, get into tin making, and that lets you make containers like canned foods. A tinnery, where meat is preserved into tin cans. Due to processing, you will get more food quantity and value out than you put in. So what they're simulating here is that normal food stored in a barn, or stored in a cellar, or what have you, you're going to get some rot. You're going to get some loss. So they're going to give you some bonus food, as to say that this food has no loss. So it's like getting, I don't know what it'll be, 1.25 times as much food, or something like that. Maybe get a 10, 20, 25% bonus. So vegetable tinnery, a meat tinnery, a fruit tinnery, and a soup tinnery. Ooh. Doesn't say what kind of soup. I like tomato soup. Okay, tinnery. No choices in color. Rotating it around, it moves a... Yeah, so it's just spinning in a circle right now. Looks like there's a door on all four sides. So a little factory, we'll call it. There's a pipe in the middle, what do you call it? A chimney, a flue. So probably for a big oven in the center. Looks like they all look pretty much the same. There's another fast or autosave. Yeah, I'm not seeing any real difference in them, so you just got to know what it is. Butcher stalls. So a cow butcher. So this little building here is going to sit outside of, wherever you're storing your meat, or maybe you'll put it alongside your pasture and let them lead them out of the pastures into an area that has a bunch of butcheries set up, and then they'll go from there into a meat locker. So different ways that you can kind of set up your farms. I'm not seeing any differences in them. Oh, wait a minute. I just noticed the difference. There's a little sign up on top. That looks like a bison. Looks like a llama. There's a sheep. Okay. A horse butchery. I wonder if that's where you get glue. Anyway. Animal pens. As different from pastures. So we've got animal pen that creates wool and occasional leather. Wool and leather. Okay. Milk pen creates milk and occasional leather. And an egg pen that creates eggs and occasional feathers. Interesting. So just a variant of the farm, the ranch pasture. So I don't know if there's any... well, if it's going to give you leather, then there's some butchering going on here, as well as over here in the pastures. So just probably a different look. Oh, I see. You don't get to size it. So it's just a little holding pen, a little smaller scale. Oh, wow, I like that. Cow chickens. Now, I don't know exactly how it works in the sense of whether or not you've got to buy chickens to go in there, or for that fee it produces. I see there's 4. It takes 4 something. Are those feathers? Those might be chickens. Wonder if you have to already have 4 chickens. Those symbols are so small. Might be animals? Wonder if that's in... Okay, let's remember where I'm at. Food and animal pens. So let's pop into here. See if we can find that symbol. It's like 4 animals and then a row of something at the very bottom. There. Domesticated animals. Okay. So I'm assuming that means that it needs 12 logs and 4 cows. 12 logs and 4 chickens. And then when you build it, 4 chickens will leave a pasture somewhere and walk in, or maybe you'll just build them into it. So that's what that is. Crop fields is what we're used to. This builds the same crops that Banished does. The difference, though, we have a plantation. So this builds a plantation that grows crops such as cotton, flax, and tobacco that are grown in these fields to avoid using your town's food limit. Aha! So when you're making firewood, and I'm thinking it's the furnace, what do you call it? The furnace fuels, and maybe even the bundles, they all count as firewood. They all count as fuel. So they all count against that limit that you placed for your firewood. So this is a way of growing these things, which are used for non-food applications, to not count against your food count. So if you only want 5,000 food and not go over, but you want some more cotton to make clothing from, then you grow it in a plantation and you don't have a count against your food quantities. So that's what that's for. Then you have your orchards, and normally the orchard will be, click on that, you'll have a tree, space, tree, or tree, space, space, tree. So you've got to carefully lay out your orchards in 2s and 3s and kind of do the math as you're doing it, so you land with trees on all the perimeters and get as much orchard into that space as you can. This makes it a little simpler. It's a dense orchard, and it's every other space. So as long as your 2 numbers end up even, you're going to be fine. So standard pasture, fenceless pasture. None of these have extras now. So fenceless pasture designates the little spaces on the map, tells the game that that is an animal area, but allows you to then place your own fences around the outside. So you can make it look like you want, whether it's the stone walls of Ireland around their pastures, or it is a modern ranch with wood fencing around it, or what have you, whatever is available. Slope conforming pastures. So if you want to build pastures with a hill inside of it, without it automatically flattening down the hill unnaturally, this allows you to do that. It may leave part of the pasture a little uninhabitable if the cattle can't walk up there, but it'll make it look more realistic. Slope conforming. Build your own fence if desired, will not flatten the terrain. Bare pasture. A fenceless pasture with no animal shelter attached, where you can build your own fences if desired, will not flatten terrain. So maybe you would build one of these and add one of these as your enclosure next to the field, instead of the one that comes with these fields. I don't know. Water tower. This one was kind of confusing when I read it. Water tower provides clean water which can be used at the pub kitchen building to fill tin canteens. People enjoy this. The people will drink water directly to stay alive, but it will have a poor impact on their health. So does that mean it's negative to use it? It will have a poor impact, or does that mean it doesn't improve their health as much as other things? So is that like a weak positive, or is it a negative? I don't quite understand the wording there. So I'll have to experiment with that and see if we can figure it out. When you go to the wiki on this, it just basically regurgitates what you're reading there. It doesn't really give you much in the way of additional insight. So it's kind of hard to go off to the official source and see what it means. You got to kind of comb the internet and see what other people are talking about. So let's get into resource production. And we've got, instead of just a forester now, we got a forester, your typical one that we're all used to, and there are a couple of different choices of its appearance now. So I'll rotate that around. There we go. And we've got our traditional woods looking one, and we've got a more modern building looking one. So two choices now depending on the look that you want. Let's see right here. Now, Forester Lodge new trees. X. Oh, X and C. Okay, those are the keys that you can hit on your keyboard to build that. So if I hit X right now, it would turn it on. Used to define an area to selectively cut down trees and plant new seedlings. Exclusively plants new trees. I don't really know what that means. This plants trees to replace what it cuts down. I assume this also plants trees to replace what it cuts down. Why would these not be considered new trees that are being planted where the others were cut down? So I'm not sure what that means. This one's obvious. It's going to plant palm trees. And this one's going to plant, let's see, bamboo. And one of these is going to plant hardwoods. So hardwood forester. So this is a hardwood forester new trees. Used to define an area to selectively cut down trees for hardwood and plant new seedlings. Exclusively plants new trees. So I'm not sure how that works. Maybe if you guys know, leave a note in the comments and let me know. What is the difference between a new tree and the tree that would have been planted anyway to replace that tree that was cut down? To me, they're both new, so I don't... The distinction between the two is not obvious enough for me. A logging barge collects wood logs or hardwood for a small price of a silver pfennig. So I'm assuming that this costs you to create logs out of nothing, as if they were floating down the river, and it's going to be taking money out of your treasury in the process of getting those logs this way. Which might be a way to get logs if you were doing a desert scenario or something like that, where you would see the palm trees. What do these look like? Okay, so this is a river based, and yeah, there's kind of a barge with logs in it, and a crane to pull the logs off. We've got here the hardwood forester. That's a hardwood new forester, and I think, yeah, the hardwood looks the same. So the bamboo wood tree forester. Oh, it's the same as the other forester. Okay, so all these are going to look the same. These four. And then these, the hardwood, is going to be a little different. And then our logging barge. Okay, so into mining now. Here's where there's a lot of differences. Mining used to be just this guy, and you would find a hill to do your best to get this guy to sink into, and if you got it on a diagonal, you were pretty much doomed. Here, I think we can get it off this guy. There we go. So let's zoom in over there. So that's the mine that we're all used to, and from here you can choose iron or coal. So that's still in Colonial Charter. Now we have a copper mine. A copper ore mine shaft. So we're getting ores that we still have to go to the smelter to change into the actual metal. So this guy sits on flat ground and creates, you can see the cable comes out of the building on the right and over the pulley and down into a shaft that goes straight down into the earth and comes back up with copper. So no other variants on the look of that. And a shaft mine for mining copper ore can also directly process copper ore into copper. Oh, that's nice. If furnace fuel is available. Upgraded versions allow the land to be reclaimed on removal. Yeah, the old mine and the old quarry, once you were done, you were stuck with them. You know, you got this scar on the land. These, you can upgrade them to filling it in, and you can build new things on top. So the tin ore mine, actually, it looks different. Good. It's not all the same one regurgitated with a different name. So this one, same idea. Let's see, rotate this around. Trying to see through those green arrows. I see the rope or chain coming down from the top. I don't see where it goes back into the ground or into the building. So I'm trying to make a guess on how that works. But it is a mine shaft. Maybe the mine shaft is inside the building, and what's out here is like a hand-cranked motor or something. Bring them up! So, same kind of description. Yep, makes tin ore, and if furnace fuel is available, it will turn it into tin for you. Alright, we have a salt or stone mine. So this guy, again, straight down into the ground, and it will make stone or salt. Whatever you want to simulate being in the ground in that region, that area. Here we are, the same thing, but it does ore or coal. So it's this layout for this building. So same concept, same process. Though I'm pretty sure this building does a much greater quantity and probably a bigger speed. This can... How many people can work in a mine? Was it... I think it was 15? Or was it 30 and I always just ran it halfway at 15? No, I think it was 15. So I'm thinking this one... There weren't near as many. Less than 10? Like 3 or 4 or 5, I'm not sure. We will play with both of those. Now we've got our big traditional quarry that cuts a big swath in the ground, but we've also got the small quarry. Click. So smaller scale, it can fit into a much tighter space, and places you couldn't use it before. Smaller number of people working on it. This one requires planks, whereas the original one did not. Oh, it does. Okay, so we're requiring planks now. Okay, the mine tool? And the mine too. Okay, so all of your mining is going to be a second or third tier type of a building, because you've got to have your sawmill up and going and converting your logs into planks before you can do it. And then we get into precious metals and precious stones. So this mine is a big old rock thing for the side of the mountain. There we go. Where's our mountain? There. So rotate around, zoom in, and RR. There we go. So out of that mine shaft, which looks vaguely like the entrance to a cave or a mine you might see in a game like Skyrim. I've seen several that look kind of like that. Fond memories. So this one will bring out precious ores and minerals such as gold, silver, and rough gemstones. We've got here a placer mine, a waterside method of harvesting precious ores such as gold and silver. A water sluice sorts and separates the precious minerals by weight. So this one, think gold mining. In fact, maybe I can pull it off right here. There we go. So, little shed to work in and get out of the weather, and a sluice box over there. It runs off into the river. That's nice. Doesn't give any other instructions for it. Then let's see. There was no other choices, right? No, that's all we have. And now we've got a salt works. So another version of the stone and salt mine is salt works for manufacturing salt from seawater using a wind pump and a large boiling pan. So this guy, rotate that around, is a wharf. Okay, so it drops into the water, and you can see a fan-driven pump that moves water around, and it'll be somewhere around here that maybe it's on the inside, where there's boiling pans that will heat up and evaporate the water to leave the salt behind. So that's what that guy is all about. Then we've got silkworms. So you buy your cocoons from your traders. I think it takes 10 cocoons to get this guy built. And you load it with cocoons, and they will produce more cocoons, which can be harvested for its silk. Silkworm hut raises silkworms to make silk and, as a last resort, food. Requires silkworm eggs from a trader. I see, so you're buying the eggs from the trader to make the cocoons. to build that. When built, silkworms require white mulberry leaves as food. So that's a tree that you'll put into an orchard. So there's a whole chain of events involved there. So that's the look. And it's a nice looking building. It's what you would imagine it to be, with all the cocoons and, you know, what are silkworms? They grow up to be like a butterfly, or they? I assume that they create a cocoon, then they, you know, sprout wings and take off. So they, like a moth. I'm not sure I've ever actually seen that process in real life. But they would be, I assume, up there in that roof, or else they'd be in little cages down below. Huh. So next is shore house. Shore house is where sand and clay can be dug up for further processing at a glassworks or brickworks, and also where frogs and turtles can be found. So I'm trying to think of what the fifth thing is. I know, oh, reeds are the fifth thing. So this guy, you drop this into the water. Let's see, let's rotate that around like so. And from the previous version, it seems like you had to be much further into the water to make it work. This one allows you to go quite a ways up the shore. So you got a lot more versatility in where you can place it now. Like there's 3 squares in between of variants instead of just one. So from here you will get, you can see kind of a pit of sand there, which is made to look a little bit like maybe a weak clay, so you can imagine either one. So it digs sand out of the embankment, or digs clay out of the embankment, or it harvests reeds, or it harvests frogs for food, or turtles for food. Reeds will be, I believe, for clothing. I don't know if there's a second use for, I know you can use reeds for the, I believe, the bundling, the fire bundles. There might be another use yet too. So just another way of getting raw resources. And that is it. So your raw resources as far as logging and mining, and then your silk production and your brick and glass production. Now, let's get into the refined resources. And after that, I think this goes a little quicker because, you know, you'll see. So refined resources. So this is taking us up the next level. So we've got our raw resources, and what are we going to do with them? So fabrics and fibers. So we've got your normal tailor's hut, and no other choices in its looks. So this makes your leather clothing and your warm clothing and your wool clothing and what have you. Weaver. I think this will also deal with the reeds too. So it'll make a, I think it's a mix of reeds and leather? Don't remember. We'll build one. Weaver makes linen, cloth, and silk out of flax, cotton, and silkworm cocoons. It can also be fashioned into rugs. Oh, so you can get rugs out of this as well. So you got your weaver. You move away from the water a little bit. Let's get back into here. So rotate that around. You can see the looms in there. Did a real good job of drawing that out. I like that. So that's your weaver. And if you want to build the windmill, you've got to have linen out of this. You've got to have quite a bit of it too. A fiber watermill is a faster way of making products from fibers such as cloth, linen, and silk, and must be built on the shore. There we go. So whip down to our shore again. And well, it's not much of a shore, but yeah, let's zoom out a little bit and get down to the river. Here we go. Let's actually see what it looks like. There we go. So you can imagine. Now, I haven't seen any animated graphics yet. Maybe Banished 3.0 will, several more upgrades of Banished. Maybe we'll start getting animation. It'd be nice to actually see the paddle wheels moving and the wind wheels moving someday. And I'm sure it'll get there. They're constantly upgrading these, so they haven't given up on them yet. So just keep making them better and better. So there is our water version of the weaver. So we have a ropery now. It's where hemp, flax, or reeds, so there's another use for reeds, bound into rope. Making rope from hemp requires less raw materials, so it's the best, than flax, which is the middle, or reeds, which need the most quantity. So that's their way of letting you know. You gotta think about what you're going to feed into this. Let's get... Wish we had water near a clearing. There we go. Turn that around, and there's for stringing out the ropes and binding them and twisting them and getting them all built. And no other choices. So now we've got a bedding maker. Boy, there's so many choices and things to do in this game. Creates bedding for use in construction of houses. Feathers come from chickens or ducks over time, or can be traded for. So I am thinking that in order to make certain houses, you've got to have bedding available. We'll see. Or maybe to keep a certain high-class population happy, you've got to have bedding available. We'll find out just how that works. Here's what it looks like. So, got all your feathers out there in bins, I'm thinking. Or cloth? Not sure what's in the bins. Okay, that looks like a barrel full of feathers to me. Now we've got the tannery. Uses salt and leather to create leather cured, so cured leather, which is required for some advanced clothing and enhances trade value. So this is going to take your leather, salt it up and cure it, so it's much more rugged and worth more. There's a nice look to it. Next, crafting and artisans. So when you've got your gem mine, you have all those rough gemstones. This guy cuts and polishes them into precious gemstones. There's a little golden hammer there. Next we've got the lumber... No, we're over here. Statue carver. Statue carver takes wood logs, or stone, or jade, or marble, and can make statues for trade or for placing around your town. Okay, there's a symbol up above that matches the one down below. Do all these buildings have symbols and I just haven't noticed them? Is there a little sign? There is a sign. Whoa! Wait a minute here. Back to food. I know we saw it in the butcher's. What else is there that's got individual little buildings? Does the mill have a sign on it anywhere? No, I'm not seeing anything on that. What else do we have here? An oil press. Oil press. So not everything has a sign and ready to go. I thought maybe I just discovered a trend that's been obvious to everybody but me, but I guess not. We were here. So maybe it's this row, all of these have that sign. So they can all, okay, these are your artisans and your crafters. So if all these are in a row down around a plaza or down a street in your town, you'll be able to see the sign of what the building is for. There's a little candle sign above the door right there. Nice. So, this is your chandlery. A chandlery is used to make candles out of beeswax, whale blubber, or tallow. Tallow. I wonder if that comes from horses. That sounds about right. Maybe cattle as well. Isn't tallow something that's boiled out of the marrow of the bones or something like that? I'm trying to recall what I remember about that. So, candle maker. Potter takes clay and creates pottery. Very simple. You can see your kilns over there. They heat those things up nice and hot and put their clay pots in there. Looks good. And there's the sign with the little pottery above the door. Now we've got, looks like furniture? No, joinery or joiner. Well, we'll call it a joinery. Creates furniture for building homes. So some of the homes require, like they have a furniture symbol in their building materials. So this is a fancy carpenter shop with a sign over the door that has a table. Then we've got the cooper. Cooper is a trained specialist who works wood into barrels, crates, or casks necessary for food preservation and holding liquids. So if you want to make wine or whiskey or what have you, you got to already have your barrels ready, or your, I wonder what casks are. Is that like a small barrel, or is that like like a half barrel cut open for storing things in them. You got your crates. Let's see what he looks like. So there it is. A cask is a small barrel, if that is what I think it is. Turn this around here. So your crates and your barrels are obvious, so a cask I'm thinking is a smaller version. It's more like a whiskey barrel size is what I'm guessing. So that's what that looks like. Alright, off to lumber, construction, and materials. So what do we do with the logs when we get them? Make a saw pit, which gives you a cutout into the ground that you can get down underneath and roll a log over the top and run your saw back and forth from below to up above and cut the logs in half. At least that's what I'm imagining. We'll see if that actually becomes what I'm thinking it is. What does this say? Very slow method of creating lumber, or what I call planks, by sawing wood logs. Use the flattened terrain tool if you remove this building. So I'm thinking that is just what I described, because it must leave a hole when you delete the building. Now we've got a sawmill, which is different from the water wheel sawmill. So this one will be just on the ground. Something powers the roll this around here. Well, that's a different way of seeing the back. I like that much better than flipping the building. So somehow they power the, let's see, I need the Q key. There we go. Power the blades in there. This one's obvious how you power the blades. Let's see, let me get my fingers in the right place. WASD goes wonky when it's not WASD. So we'll grab that space right there. So again, if they ever animate these things, that's going to look amazing. So there's your water wheel sawmill. And produces lumber or firewood. That's right. So you can choose lumber or firewood out of these. And I think the water wheel sawmill is more efficient than the wood chopper for making firewood, if I recall. It says very fast work speed will use up available wood logs quickly, which is another way of saying you better have lots of log production in your civilization now, because they can chew those things up real fast. We've got a shipyard now, builds whole components for deploying at waterside docks and wharfs. Wow. So we are like this. I'll go here. There we are. So you can imagine building the ship and sliding it down the ramp and the finished product and making your ships. We've got brickworks. So this will take the clay and we'll take the furnace fuel and give you bricks. Using a furnace, the brickwork creates hot blasted shaped bricks for advanced buildings. This is the glassworks, where sand gets heated up in a furnace and turned into glass and produces glass products. Click. There we go. So this one creates your glass. Those are furnaces there, or kilns. I rotate that around. Let's see, that's this one. Then we've got homeware supplies. So this makes some of those brown squares that are required to build a building that we've wondered what they are. So this builds your homewares. Prepares homewares. The homewares supplier is a craft person who compiles, that makes more sense, compiles the resources necessary for homes into transportable packages, a vital function when building higher quality homes. So really it's just a crate of home stuff. And for the better quality homes, it takes a couple of crates of home stuff. Got to put in your 1600s appliances and your blenders and all that great stuff. This is the building supplier. Is a craftsperson who compiles the resources necessary to build complex structures into transportable packages, a vital function for building houses or large buildings. So this is the golden colored crate that we've seen in some of the buildings. He is a much bigger place and packages up all the stuff you need to finish that building and just delivers the crate to the job site. Okay, so that is the lumber, construction, and materials tab. Smithing, tools, metalworking, and smelting. That looks the same. Ah, because I didn't choose one. Okay, out of that you get your blacksmith, which we've seen from Vanilla Banished, and there's no other choices there, so that's the same blacksmith. Or you can get, okay, blacksmith needs iron to work, and of course we're not digging up iron anymore, we're digging up iron ore. So your small iron smelter only produces iron by taking ore and furnace fuel. Only one worker can work here, and is less efficient than the larger foundry and forge buildings. So this is what we did. Let me click on that. Right, where am I? Right over here. So that guy. So this will give us a small quantity of iron to get our blacksmith up and going at the beginning. Later on you're going to get into the melting houses. Converts gold and silver ores into usable gold. Oh, there's our answer. So these will mint our coins. Aha! So these will turn gold and silver into gold gilder or silver pfennigs for trade. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's the way the way I learned English, the way that would work out. That's a pfennig. So that's where we get our coins. I wondered about that. I didn't come across that tab before. I said, okay, this does gold and silver, and this does iron, and this does all of them, or something like that. So this is specific for coinage. Okay, and it looks like this. Fort Knox. Got big stone walls to make sure that no one sneaks in and takes those coins. Let's turn him around. Yeah, we've got a very secure building, iron bars in the front. Yeah, we have Fort Knox here. We have the Treasury Department. Yeah, we've got the metalsmith. This is what I assumed that the melting house was, just another kind of metalsmith. Creates canteens, tinware, copperware, pewterware, and silverware by heating and folding metal into shapes using a range of hammers and tools. The various kinds of wares are needed to make homewares at a homewares supplier and are important for improved house upgrades. Okay, that'll get exciting to get into. What's he look like? Not what I expected. That looks like a house. Well, I guess it's like a workshop. Big barn door on the side there. So there's a chimney that's some kind of, well, it looks like a chimney to me. This place seems to me like it should be more of a factory look to it. We've got here what I thought the other would look like. So this one is the forge. Creates iron from iron ore. Also creates tin, copper, bronze, and pewter. Can make cannons, joists, iron statues, and bronze statues, as well as bronze tools. I haven't gotten into bronze tools yet. I don't know how they compare to steel. Does not require water placement. So this guy will work on its own. Interesting. So you've got a lever. It goes up and down, pumps a bellows. So maybe that's a hand-powered bellows out here. Or maybe somehow you hook up an oxen to it. And heats up that huge stone forge there that looks like they just throw in the metal from the top. Now I'm sure that's what's going on down below on the other side. Can we see anything down there? Yeah, underneath the shed roof there. What is... Oh, there's a road placed in there. Oh, that's right. Yesterday we were dropping tiles right there for the, what do you call it, the plaza. So that's where we were last time I was filming. So, you know, we're coming up on that 1 hour mark again, and we're still not there. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll finish out this last building, and we'll come back to this spot here, and we'll get the last of these done. And we'll be done with the with this little sub-series, we'll call it. We'll get back to our gaming. But that was the forge. Now we're going to get into the foundry. That's a water wheel version. Okay. So glancing through there, it looks like it is the same description, except produced by water wheel and slightly more efficient than the forge. So this one, the water will turn the wheel and keep it constantly producing, rather than only when labor is involved in turning the wheel around. Otherwise, we look like... I can't see much more. Always look so much better when they're built than when you're trying to see this faded out version. Okay, well that takes care of half of our refined resources. We get into luxury production, and then we get into themed sets, which will go rather quickly. You know, introduce the themes and kind of hit a few things, but there's a place in here where you can place any object in the game. There's all of the animals, all of the crops, all the little barrels, all the little things that you see mixed into some of these views of, you know, like that anvil right there. You'll probably find there's an anvil you can place manually. So some of these sets have got all the different graphics of the game, so you can role play and create your own little area set up exactly how you want it to be for a certain scenario you're trying to create. So really flexible tools have been built into this. So we're going to come back to woodcutter. Now, I would just say we just quickly get this done, but there's still so much to do. So we'll come back to this point right here when I get back to the next episode. So thank you for watching, and do please hit the like or the thumbs up down there, and the subscribe if you haven't already. I always appreciate that, and we'll see you next time, folks. Thanks for watching.